power transistors. In power electronics, since we are using transistors as a switch, so it is better to identify the characteristics of switches. So here are some characteristics of an ideal switch, which has no limit uh, on the amount of current, so no limit on the blocking voltage. There will be no voltage drop during the device on state, and during off state the resistance will be infinite. So again, another parameter is the speed. So there will be no limit on the operating speed of an ideal switch. Again, this type of ideal switch is supposed to be operated in a variety of environmental situations. In this diagram, you can see the on and off time of an ideal switch. Since the product of voltage and current is zero, there will be no power loss in case of an ideal switch. But in reality, the practical switch doesn't meet all the requirements of an ideal switch. It can't carry an infinite amount of current. It can't block infinite voltage. There is still some resistance during on state, and during off state the resistance isn't infinite. It cannot turn on and off instantly. In this curve, you can see there is a little bit of delay to turn on and turn off this device. So this delay means in this period, the product of voltage and current is non-zero, hence the switching loss. And again, when the device is in on state or off state, in on state, the current is not all the way to zero. There is some leakage current. So this contributes to the conduction loss of the device. So due to these losses in this practical switch, these types of device isn't ideal for high frequency operation. Uh, Here is a diagram of a vertical channel structure. Vertical channel structure enhances the cross-sectional area, hence minimizes the on-state resistance. In case of a BJT, the on-state loss is defined by the product of voltage and current. Safe operating area is an important parameter for any kinds of transistors. It is essentially the measure of power. In this graph, here is a voltage axis and a current axis. So the area under the curve is basically the power limit. So safe operating area is the measure of power under which the device can be operated reliably or without being damaged. But in case of a BJT, there is a secondary breakdown limit. If we can recall, the BJT is a semiconductor device, hence there will be a PN junction, and in order to turn on that BJT, we need to forward this PN junction. So there will be a certain voltage drop in this region. And again, in case of a semiconductor device, the resistance is inversely proportional to temperature. So if the temperature rises, the resistance will decrease, and vice versa. So a decreased resistance will contribute to a even higher amount of current, which will further increase the heat, and it will act like a positive feedback loop until the device destroys. So secondary breakdown is a limitation of BJT. This is a diagram of switching characteristic of transistor. So this turn off process is dominated by this storage time, which is the time to neutralize the carrier stored in collector and base. So if you can remember, uh, in order to turn on the transistor, we need to turn on this PN junction. And to turn off the transistor, we need to dissipate the charges stored in this junction. So it takes some time. Even after turning off the current, it takes a while to for collector current to diminish. So hence BJT isn't a very fast switcher. As there is some delay, there will be a higher switching loss in case of a BJT. So this is the this is an operational diagram of a MOSFET. In case you have forgotten, this is an N-channel enhancement type MOSFET. The MOSFET, the two terminal of a MOSFET is source and drain, and the control terminal is called gate. The control terminal isn't connected directly to the MOSFET. It is connected by this layer of insulator. So if we apply a positive charge in gate, the corresponding negative charge will be accumulated in this region. So between the source and gate, source and drain terminal, there will be nothing but electron. So this type of device is called a majority carrier device. Unlike BJT, the main current here is flown only by electron in case of an N-channel MOSFET. In case of a BJT, the current is flown by both electrons and hole. So being a majority carrier device, if we consider or if we model the terminal source and drain, we will find it similar to a conductor, as there is no holes in between source and drain. So this type of device or majority carrier device will show characteristics similar to that of a conductor. So if we move to this diagram, between source to drain there is only resistance. Unlike a BJT, this is there is a PN junction. So no matter what we do, or no matter what is the condition, the PN junction will always stay there. But in case of a MOSFET, this source and drain terminal is constructed essentially by resistance. So in case of a MOSFET, we can determine the on-state loss by R square R. And this R is resistance between drain to source while the device is on. This is a safe operating area of a MOSFET. Since the MOSFET will show a similar behavior as a resistance, the resistance for a conductor is proportional to temperature. So if temperature rises, so does the resistance. And an increase in resistance will drop the current. So there will be no secondary breakdown or positive feedback loop in case of a MOSFET. So due to the absence of secondary breakdown, the safe operating area of a MOSFET is much larger compared to BJT. So this is a quick diagram of the internal capacitance of a MOSFET. So this is interesting. This is the turn on and turn off delay. Since the MOSFET is governed by the capacitance, because between the gate and source terminal there is nothing but an insulator, And if we provide a voltage difference between an insulator, it will act like a capacitor. So in case of a MOSFET, in order to turn on and turn off the device, we need to charge and discharge this capacitance respectively. Hence, there will be a delay, but it will be significantly shorter than that of BJT. So this is a comparison between BJT and MOSFET. In terms of switching loss, as MOSFET is a faster operating device, the switching loss in MOSFET should be lower than BJT. In case of the conduction loss, this scenario is a little bit different, because if we go back to our diagram, the conduction loss in MOSFET is governed by this resistance, and this resistance is a variable resistance, and this will vary according to the concentration of negative charges in case of an N-channel MOSFET. So in case of a MOSFET, the conduction loss is much higher. So conduction loss of BJT is lower than MOSFET. Now, when it comes to driver circuit, in order to turn on the BJT, we need to turn on this base emitter. So this base emitter is basically a diode. And in order to turn on a MOSFET, all we need to do is to apply a positive voltage in gate. So between gate and source, there is actually an insulator. So the actual amount of current will be much lower in case of a MOSFET. So the driver circuit of BJT is much heavier than MOSFET, because in order to turn on the MOSFET, all we need to do is apply a voltage. But to turn on a BJT, we should apply a current. So when it comes to secondary breakdown issue, MOSFET is always preferable. IGBT is a combination of MOSFET and BJT. It is called insulated gate bipolar transistor. Here are some advantages and disadvantages of IGBT. We will go through that later. First, we should know the operation of IGBT. Here is a symbol of IGBT. By looking at this, the output side of an IGBT is much like a BJT, and the input side of the IGBT is like a MOSFET. As IGBT is a combination of MOSFET input and BJT output, it will be a superior device compared to both MOSFET and BJT, at least in terms of power electronics usage. So here is an upside down diagram of an IGBT. Here is an emitter. So emitter should be kept at a lower voltage. The collector voltage should be higher, and we have to provide a gate voltage with respect to emitter. If we provide a gate voltage, a positive gate voltage, these two portions will be connected through a negative channel or N-type material. So basically, this is the base of a PNP transistor. So if we provide the majority carrier in this base of a PNP transistor, the transistor will start to conduct. And this is the basic of an IGBT operation. So these are basically the operating modes of IGBT. First of all, this is the forward blocking mode. In a forward blocking mode, the collector is kept at a higher potential and the emitter is at a lower potential, and no gate voltage is provided. So this junction this PN junction is forward biased, and this PN junction is forward biased. Again, this PN junction is reverse biased. So we can say junction 1 and junction 3 is forward and junction 2 is reverse biased. So in case of a conduction mode, if we provide a positive gate, then this junction 2 becomes forward and the current will flow. There is an important term called conductivity modulation. If we can remember from the previous chapter, is this N minus drift region is lightly doped. So to increase the conductivity of this region, we have to provide carriers in this region. Since this is essentially a bipolar junction transistor, at least on the output side, so both holes and electrons will be accountable for the overall current flow. So this drift region will be flooded with both holes and electrons. So holes will be coming from this P region and electron will be coming from this emitter region or this N plus region, since this N plus and this drift region is bridged by this channel. So there will be an abundance of carriers in this N minus region. This is called the conductivity modulation of an IGBT. So this is the switching characteristic of an IGBT, and it is related, especially the turn-off process is related to the turn-off process of BJT. So if we go back there is a storage time, which is the time to neutralize the carriers stored in a junction. Again, we should remember that the base of the BJT is directly connected to the driver circuit. But in case of an IGBT, the gate terminal is not directly connected to the internal material because there is this insulator material. So in order to remove the charges stored in this junction, all we need to do is to wait, because there is no easily accessible means in case of an IGBT, because the gate portion of the gate pin of the IGBT is not directly connected to this N type of material. So in order to remove the charges, we have to rely on this recombination process. So this will take a little bit of time, and hence there will be a delay in case of IGBT during turn-off process. This is called tailing collector current, and due to this phenomena, the IGBT is not a very suitable device for high frequency operation. But in case of a power electronics application, we don't normally exceed 100 kilohertz. So IGBT is probably fine in this region. Here is a quick classification of IGBT in terms of its structure. This is called punch through and non-punch through. In case of a non-punch through IGBT, there is no extra buffer layer. So this extra buffer layer helps recombination process. Hence, it reduces the tail current. So in case of a punch through IGBT, The extra buffer layer will contribute to lower overall switching and conduction loss because of the reduction of this tail current. And here are some applications of IGBT.